Welcome to A Taste of AZ podcast, where we interview everyone from James Beard award-winning chefs to local mixologists, winemakers, breweries, and so much more. We've got an awesome episode lined up for you today. But before we get into that, head to atasteofaz.com so you can subscribe to our quarterly magazine and email newsletter to find all of the best places to eat and drink around town. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Now let's get into the episode.
So we have up until like at the 30-minute mark, we'll take a break because we have to reset the camera.
Okay.
But thank you for joining.
Yay!
This is exciting.
This is so exciting.
I think we should have a competition to see who's more excited, you or I. I don't know how to. Shay, Rachel, can you guys judge on who's more excited?
Yeah. I am such a fangirl. I think I told you that the first time we met in person.
Yeah.
That, I just... Thank you so much for having me. And I love what you do. And I love the stories you tell around food. And that's like my favorite thing. So
food?
Food. Oh, yeah.
Or design. Like what is?
No, I only design for the food.
I love it. Heck yeah. All right. Yeah. And I only we only do the business side just so I can eat, right?
Yeah.
Eat what I want to eat.
Yeah.
Nicole Herman from Social Design Studio.
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast. I have to tell you guys right off the bat, thank you because you guys reached out to us. That's what Shay reached out to us and just connected. And I think it was just a matter of like, hey, we love what you're doing. We would love to see how we can work together. And then we looked at your stuff and looked at your website and your social media, and we're like, well, shit, we got to get them on the podcast. So thank you for supporting the magazine, being an advertiser, and being a supporter of the show by listening to it. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're at one of your newest creations, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where are we?
So we are at Oliver's Modern American. It is just in the finishing phases. They are opening May 24th is the grand opening.
Okay.
But it's been in development literally for years, which a lot of restaurants, it takes years of development.
For sure.
This one particular, the kind of part of the restaurant is actually an old Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
That's
really cool.
Yeah, it's nutty. So it was on 68th and McDowell. And so it was the Polynesian Dairy Queen. And the owner and developer of Oliver's basically moved that, saved the Queen. So there was this whole thing about actually saving the architecture.
Yeah.
So our the owner of this concept, he actually saved that building, moved it here. So we're just south of Indian School on Hayden, just south of Osborne, and put it in this kind of shopping complex, and then developed a restaurant around it.
I didn't know they moved the building.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother level.
Yes.
Right.
So when I say years in development, I mean, I don't know, that was probably years ago that they actually moved, disassembled, moved it to its current site.
Yeah.
And then, basically designed this whole structure around it to become this concept.
This beautiful place.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind. So I went to college in Canton, Ohio, and across the street from us was there's a lot of history in Canton with I think I should probably know more than this, but there's a Pro Football Hall of Fame. I know that. But then there's industry. I think it's maybe tires or something like that. And there's a lot of Akron, Canton. It's the tire factories and, a lot of blue collar stuff. But there was a house and I can't remember who it was owned by, maybe McKinley or something like that. But this big, huge house, and they took it. I mean, this was a 2-story house with probably an attic, old school. And they took it off of the foundation. They didn't tear it apart. They just had it and they just moved it somewhere else. How do you do that? Is that real? Or we living in a simulation at this point, right?
It's crazy what they can actually do.
For real. Yeah.
But
so
then,
they just, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, the nice thing, especially here in Phoenix, is, there's not a whole lot of history or historic buildings. Yeah. So the fact that, Tom actually saved the building to reuse it and repurpose it is pretty special.
I love it. Well, and also, so Steve, Ellison?
Yes.
Steve Ellison. I met him years ago, actually. When you said, hey, we're going to, I'm connecting Steve. I'm like, I know Steve from Fate. Yeah. So I met him years ago through Fate Brewing. So I got here a little bit early and he gave me a little bit of a tour. And I think it's super cool how they, we'll have them on the podcast as well, so he can tell the whole story, but it's named after his son.
Yes.
His little boy. And on the wall going into the bathrooms is the history of this building.
Yep.
like in like letters and pictures from like the original owners. And
Yep.
so there's a lot of history with that.
Yep.
That's really cool.
And we developed that. So at Social Design Studio.
Damn right you did.
Yeah. So not only did we do the interiors, but we did the full graphics and branding. So we actually do it all.
Nice.
And then we worked with the owners to develop that whole history wall. And so Liz, our graphics lead, she did a phenomenal job of like putting that together. And then also this wall here. And so
the wall with the more kind of I guess
it's like the story of the building is this wall.
More
and then
looking.
And then back to the restrooms is actually like more of the family story, which is just
with an
super
apron,
cool,
like an original Dairy Queen apron. And then the glasses. Steve said that they have like original Dairy Queen glasses. They had one, and then you guys were able to find like a whole set of them on eBay.
Yeah.
You can find everything on eBay.
You can find anything.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how to use it, to be honest with you. Like I just don't get it. I have a friend and I'm like, hey dude, he loves eBay. I'm like, I'm looking for this. Can you find me this on eBay?
Yeah.
And he's like, $2, man. I'm like, what?
What's really cool, Steve was just telling me too, is that, they found them from all these different people. And then when they received them, some of them actually had notes from like the original owners, like, I hope you enjoy that, like I've had this since 1956. And, I have so many memories with this glass and tumbler. Awesome. I know, it's incredible.
That and I'm a believer of the stuff of like things hold energy and things like that. And that just adds so much to the story and just that's really cool. I mean, I think we can go on all day about this stuff, but let's backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
Where are you from? Are you originally from Arizona?
No.
Okay.
No. Is anybody? No. I know there are.
There are very few. Yeah.
No. So I am originally from. Well, I was born in Minnesota, so I live there.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
Midwestern, Little Falls, Minnesota. So teeny tiny town. It's outside of St. Cloud.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, my wife is from Minnesota.
Oh, really?
She's from Western Minnesota, so she's from like Detroit Lakes area.
Okay.
Perham. She's from Perham, but then she has family in like Alexandria. So we'll fly into Minneapolis because we gave up flying into Fargo. I'm like, I'm not flying Frontier anymore. I'll fly a regular airline into Minneapolis, and then we'll drive across. And it's such a cool drive. We go through St. Cloud, we go through Alexandria and all that stuff. I love that part of the world. I really do. So how long did you live there?
So I lived there till I was 5.
Okay.
And then my mom was having some health issues and she was actually originally from Montana.
Okay.
So we ended up moving when I was 5 to her home state. And basically when people ask, I say I'm originally from Montana. So that's where I really grew up.
Sure. Yeah.
And I lived there till I was 19.
Okay.
But yeah, so grew up in Montana.
Doing what? Like what was Nicole the kid like?
Oh my gosh. I was spunky and rambunctious and very hard-headed. And
so you're trying to tell me my older daughter has hope, then we have hope for her?
Yes. So I was a silly little kid. Yeah, I was I was the youngest of 3 girls. Raised by a single mom. So, I had a lot of free reign, especially in a big state.
Yeah. Like, was it kind of a rural part of was it?
No. Well, I mean, all of Montana, right? It's like, it's not a whole lot there.
Yeah.
But we were raised in Great Falls, which is right in the center, like central Montana.
Okay.
So right in the plains. There's not a whole lot there. There's an Air Force base, so Malmstrom Air Force Base. But yeah, it was a great place to grow up in that there was skiing and hiking and camping and it's a great place to outdoorsy.
I like that.
Yeah. So Montana will always be in my heart. But yeah, I was very artistic as a kid. I was always drawn to like. It's funny. Looking back, hindsight is 2020. I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I think very early on, my uncle, my mom's older brother, he had a hardwood flooring business.
Okay.
And he would sometimes take us because we basically hung around my cousins all the time. And so he would sometimes take us to job sites. And I think that's my very first memories of like falling in love with the whole like design and construction. We would be like these little girls running around on like construction sites.
Exposed nails everywhere.
Exposed nails. I'm like, this is so dangerous thinking back on it. Like, oh my gosh.
You're kind of apprehensive to tell people like, what? Like to let you, we used to hike on the railroad tracks. Like that was our thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We had railroad tracks. I loved it.
Oh, for sure. See how long you could walk on the rail. You find railroad spikes and stuff. And people look back like, what? Like your parents? I'm like, my parents were with me. Like they took me on the hike.
Oh, no. Actually my uncle had to have been there, right? Somewhere on the job site, but we would just kind of roam around and
You got your tetanus shot. You were fine.
Yeah,
right?
I was
like,
fine.
You were covered.
I was fine. So grew up in Montana, went to high school, like took basically every single art design class I could.
Okay.
Not really knowing any, it's just that's what I was kind of drawn to.
Sure. Yeah.
But probably around, senior year of high school, I was like, it's not the place I want to be forever. Like
Montana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Montana. Yeah. So I had a sister who went into the military, and I think at the time she lived in Korea. So she went all over the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to get out to the big city, right?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So originally I wanted to move to Seattle. There was an art school there that I absolutely fell in love with. And originally I was thinking about photography. So okay. I love photography.
Nice.
That kind of plan fell through. My sister ended up getting stationed actually here in Arizona.
Okay.
At Fort Huachuca. So down south of Tucson.
Nice.
I came out to visit her like right around my senior year of high school, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Like I instantly fell in love with Arizona. Like
in Tucson. So you're mostly in like experiencing Tucson at first?
Really down south. Like, have you ever been to Sierra Vista?
No.
Oh my gosh. There's
I've been to Tombstone. That's it.
No, it's right by Tombstone.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like nothing is there. Although when I came to visit, she did take me up to Phoenix. We kind of toured ASU. And I think I just immediately, it was warm. Like even in the summer in Montana, it's like 70 degrees.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which some people listening are probably like, that's the most amazing thing ever.
About
What are you complaining about? But like the winters are like, just like here, summers are like the majority of the year. In Montana, winters are the majority of the year. So it's like, it's cold and it's rainy and it's windy and whatever.
Yeah. It's not the glorious winter that like my kids picture. Like, oh, it's Flagstaff. It's beautiful. I'm like, you were there for 2 days.
Yes.
And it was not after the snow fell and the sun was out. Like, you have no idea.
Yeah, you have no idea. And like the powder lasts for like a day, and then it like melts, and then it's black ice, and it's scary.
Yep. And
to
it's
drive.
Gray slushy roads for months.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
just
good with
gross.
that.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
So the heat, the warmth here, you enjoyed.
I loved. Yeah, absolutely loved. So my sister's like, come, live here. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. She was actually she did like her 4 years, and then she was getting out and she was planning on going to ASU. Okay. So, so I moved out, absolutely fell in love, kind of stayed in Sierra Vista for a little bit. And then, long story short, made my way up to Phoenix.
Okay.
And then, I knew I wanted to do something in the art field. And so there was the Art Institute of Phoenix here, which I took a tour of. Okay. And they like basically listed all these programs of like, hey, we have culinary, we have graphic design, we have you get little snippets. And then I did this little thing on interior design. And I had no idea that was even a job.
Yeah.
Or like,
Like I thought just some people have better taste than others, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they did this whole presentation on like what interior design is. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this is like a real job, and like people do this, and I instantly fell in love, and I'm like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Nice. How old were you at the point?
So I was 19.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Because I was like 38 when I realized like kind of what I was meant to do. I'm still figuring it out at 45, but that's cool when you have that clarity of purpose. Like when you're like, oh, okay. Especially if you've been, whether it's aggressively seeking it or just like casually seeking it, when you find that thing, that's exciting. Yeah.
I now, like much later, realizing that I found it so early, it is such a blessing. Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I went to the Art Institute, absolutely loved design school. I mean, it's rigorous. Like it's actually pretty like, the things we learn, a lot about codes, a lot about egress, a lot about like, it's so much technical stuff. It's kind of amazing. But then we also obviously learn about design and form and function and color theory and all of the things.
Let's say, what do you mean by code? Like building codes and stuff like that.
Yeah, like building codes, like ADA, like you're like, this, pathway here has to be like 36 inches wide, right? Or if it's a fire path, it has to be 44. So like when we're laying out commercial spaces, have to know that, or, the bar counter there has to be an ADA portion, right? That's at 34 inches high.
Yeah.
So we learn all the technical aspects. In some schools, interior design is actually called interior architecture. So because it's so heavily, like the more commercial side of it.
Yeah, I feel like that's the fundamentals, right?
Yes.
That's like the core, the base, the foundation. Yeah. No pun intended, I
guess. And it's funny because in school, like growing up, I always loved, I was always very good at math. Like I was a pretty good student, but I always loved like the technical aspects or like math and science, but I love design. So I feel like interiors kind of like bridges both of them. Like I need to know the technical side, but I also get to do all the pretty fun stuff too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, because to me, those two things it's like the best of both worlds, right? Because for me, I do like structure, right? But I also like the freedom to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So if you can find something that you can do both, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes it's like, I have no creativity left in my brain. I don't want to, I just want to follow a set of instructions, something's already, but then there's other times where I'm like, I'm so tired of following these instructions. I just want to do what I want.
You just want to create.
So it does sound like design that's that perfect medium.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So design school was amazing. It's cool because when you have an interiors degree, you do different studios. Yeah. So you have a residential, obviously. I think most people, when they think of interior design, they think of a residential interior designer. Yep. But then you have commercial, like true corporate, which is like nice big offices. Like think about a big office for like Google or like a bank or whatever.
Yeah.
So we did a corporate studio, healthcare, which is like hospitals. Okay. And then there was hospitality. So in my hospitality studio, we designed a boutique hotel and a restaurant. And it was in that studio where I was like, that's where I really like, I found design, but now I'm like, oh, this is what I want to do. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was it? What was it about that?
I think with hospitality, residential is so personal, right? Like it's very personal to the homeowner.
What their tastes are.
What their tastes are. Yes, exactly. Healthcare, very technical. Yeah. Obviously, you're dealing with like blood splatter and
you mean not your design
and urine, yes, and like your colors are very muted and you're very and some people love that stuff.
Yeah.
Corporate is very all about that corporate culture. So like my internship I did at a corporate firm, and so our one of our biggest clients was Wells Fargo. Okay. So we did a lot of their offices. Okay. But it's a lot of standards, right? Sure. So like Wells Fargo has Wells Fargo red and Wells Fargo beige and those are the options you get to choose from.
Yeah.
But there is also a lot of fun in that world as well. But hospitality, it's like you're creating an experience.
Yeah.
You know, like you're creating a place for a first date. You're creating like a place for celebrations. It's just, I don't know. And even like hotels are part of hospitality as well. Like, when you go away, you're creating this like escape. Sure. Every room has like, it's just about stories.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And there's probably a huge, there's a whole spectrum of, everything from, I picture like a Red and Wolf. Like I love like their design, you have that, everything from that to Oliver's, right? Like and everything in between. And I could see where that would draw you in.
Yeah.
Cause it's, people aren't going to the hospital to have fun, right? You're not going to Wells Fargo office to have fun, but they are coming to hotels or coming to restaurants to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
And I think, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long ago was that when so I think you said you were 19 when you realized interior design was the direction for you. Where do you go from there? Like once you get out of school and you start to.
Once I got out of school, I knew I did a lot of research as far as like what firms were here in the Valley.
Okay.
And so there were only a handful that I was really drawn to. So I applied to those, and I graduated almost 20 years ago now, which is bananas. But yeah, so there was two that I was really interested in: Kathy Hayes, and Judy Testani. So Testani Design Troupe.
Okay.
And I got offers from both of them, and so thankfully, I got to pick which one. Nice. And Judy, I just loved her portfolio and kind of what she did. And so for those of you who don't know, Judy's kind of a legend in the Valley as far as design.
Yeah.
So, right when I started, they were just finishing up Olive and Ivy for Sam Fox.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
where was the first one in Scottsdale?
There's only one
Well,
of
there's
Olive
only
and
one.
Ivy. Well, we did one at the airport.
Okay. But the Olive and Ivy on the Scottsdale waterfront.
Yep,
thing.
on the waterfront. Yeah.
Okay.
So right when I started with her, they were just finishing that up. It was funny because nobody knew who Sam Fox was.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I got a job with this, this firm, and she does work for this guy. And so I ended up being there right out of college for almost a decade, so 8 years. But during that time, we basically did all of Sam's work. So, the vast majority of it. So I was on the original design teams for True Food Kitchen, and first location at the Biltmore, and then multiple locations like all over I think California, and then we did one in Atlanta. Culinary Dropout. So I was in the original design team for that original first location at the waterfront.
Okay. Yeah.
Everyone thinks 7th Street was the first location.
The
Yard.
The Yard. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the first one is where, like, right by the mall.
Yeah. Right by Maple and Ash.
Yeah, it used to be. Didn't it used to be like the Pink Taco or something like that?
Did.
Yeah, and they almost named the stadium the Pink Taco Stadium or something. All right, I like Culinary Dropout better.
Yeah,
but so when you go into something like that, because I mean, Fox Restaurants, like I'm a huge fan of them.
Yeah.
Like I still say that, we go to all these mom and pop places, and I tell them, I'll be very honest, I'm like, Blanco still has the best nachos I've ever had.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, and it's interesting the way people look at Fox Restaurants. I still look at it as it's a local company. It's a local, but now that they're bigger, and I'm all about it.
Yeah.
I love Fox Restaurants. They're consistent. They're beautifully designed.
Yeah.
Right. So when you go into a place, what were you guys designing? I mean, everything from menus to font to like all that stuff, or is it more?
Not with Judy. So we just did primarily interiors.
Okay.
So, you get the show. Like how a restaurant design works, right, is that an owner will sign a lease for a space. I mean, this like Oliver's was built, but usually you're going like Culinary Dropout, right? Like you're going into an existing space and you get the shell.
Sure.
So the shell is really like, let's just say 4 walls, for lack of a better, right?
Yeah.
So we get the 4 walls, and then the owner typically works with their culinary team and the architect on the layout of the kitchen.
Okay.
Right. So first to go in is always the kitchen, just because you need to carve out that space.
Yeah.
And depending on the menu, it's vastly different, right?
Yeah.
How big your hood, how big your line, how big this, that. So they usually carve out the kitchen, and then we get the rest of the space.
Okay.
So essentially we lay out, along with the architect, they need to like tell us how many bathrooms we need, that kind of thing. But we usually lay out where the bar is, like basically everything you see. So like, are we doing booths here? Are we doing banquettes here? Are we doing freestanding seating? Are we doing lounge seating? So we really lay out the entire space.
Yeah.
So first is just to get that floor plan kind of dialed in.
Okay.
And then once you meet with the owner, we may go back and forth a couple times. And so you have the layout of the space, and then you move into design. So when I was with Judy, like a space like Culinary Dropout, like that was all we did 2D elevations. Like this is so long ago. But she would actually hand sketch everything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like I honestly look back at that time, like I got to learn from a master, right?
Yeah.
Like she's awesome. So incredible.
Yeah.
So she would sketch out literally everything. We would pull all the finishes, the fabric, the furniture, the lighting, like literally everything you touch and feel.
Yeah.
And then present to the owner, and
and then they would say, oh, I like this, I don't like this. And and if you nail it, they're just like, it's good.
Yes.
Sign
Hopefully.
it.
Yeah. We sometimes get it right on that first try, but usually there's a little bit of back and forth.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's just part of the game, I guess, right? If you were just, I was listening to a podcast with Kobe Bryant. I wasn't a huge fan of his, like, I didn't really watch basketball a whole lot, but reading about him and like what his approach to things were, it was just really incredible. And then the podcast, the guy was like, what's it feel like to lose?
Yeah.
He's like, it's exciting. He's like, what do you mean it's exciting? He's like, I've seen you lose, you don't look excited.
Yeah.
He's like, no, it's like I learn, like I'm learning, like it's always a learning thing. So losing is like, okay, I'm excited now. I have, because if you're just perfect all the time, then it's like, it's like my daughters. I tell my daughters all the time, I'm like, if you don't mess up or if you don't get things incorrect, then they're like, you're not learning. Like, so I don't know. That's life lessons by Eric Walters right there.
100%. What's that saying? It's like, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Yeah, like, for sure. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we like winning. Let's be honest. Winning is fun. But okay, so you're with her and you're working on these really cool projects.
Yes. Yeah. So we worked on amazing, not only Sam's projects, but like Steak 44. I got to be a part of.
Nice.
A lot of resort work, spa work, and we worked on projects not only here in the Valley, but all over the country. But yeah, so I spent a good chunk of time with her, and then it was kind of time for me to like grow my wings. And so I left her, did a small stint at multifamily, which is basically like really nice luxury apartments.
Okay.
Found out that wasn't my jam.
Yeah. At least you know now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. That was a learning lesson, but I did learn a ton while I was there.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went to a firm called Ideation Design Group, where we did primarily a lot of our work was food and beverage and retail in airports.
Oh, okay.
And so not only here locally, like Sky Harbor, but like we did work all over the country.
Nice.
Which was a ton of fun. But our biggest project while I was there, we were brought on board as one of many firms to work on Universal Studios Beijing.
Oh,
so
wow.
ground up. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's a big project.
It was massive, like literally legit, like the most massive project. So I got to be the design lead basically for an entire land. Okay. So we had at our firm, we were in charge of 3 lands. Harry Potter, everybody knows. They had very, very specific standards, obviously.
Yeah.
And then Hollywood, which is the main land. And then my land was Transformers.
So, wow. Yeah. That's really cool.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in California and Orlando, Transformers is only a ride. So it's a 3D, it's a roller coaster, but because Asia has such a huge following basically of Transformers, like it's massive over there.
Is it really? Okay.
Yes, apparently. And so they decided to basically design an entire land. So we had 3 food and beverage and 2 retail, and then there was a whole roller coaster. There was multiple rides.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've been to like obviously Universal Studios, like they're themed lands. Okay. Disneyland? Do you take your kids to Disneyland?
No. I know.
Oh,
they're not huge fans, so it just sounds like a nightmare to me.
It's definitely, yes.
Yeah, I know. We'll cut that part out of it. I have taken my kids to Disney.
No, but obviously, so that was just such an incredible experience because we, along with Hasbro owns Transformers IP.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And then Universal Creative is the one developing the land. They developed this whole story, like a legitimate story.
Yeah.
That like, if you and I are talking, we're talking about them as if, do you know Transformers?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do know.
So
yeah.
if we're sitting here talking in a meeting, in a business meeting, I am telling you about Optimus as if he's a real person.
Yeah.
So like we're talking about them like, oh yeah, well, Optimus wouldn't do that.
I don't think Optimus would approve of that.
I mean, obviously. Or if Bumblebee gets cut, like what color is Energon that's squirting out? Like
I'd be like,
it was bananas.
Yeah.
But it was like legitimately one of the coolest experiences.
What an experience.
Yeah. But it taught me a lot about story, right?
Okay,
so like Hasbro created this legit story around this land and like how powerful that can be behind a concept. So I got to learn that in a very big way, right?
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Let's take a quick break.
Okay.
Word from, I guess, our sponsors.
A real quick reminder, head over to atasteofaz.com and subscribe to our email newsletter. Also, subscribe to A Taste of AZ magazine and get it shipped right to your door. Now let's get back into today's episode.
That Transformers thing really blows my mind, right? Because I mean, it also probably gives guidance to the whole project
Yeah.
itself, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's one of those things where you have these company standards, it's like, okay, well, based on this value, like what would our choice be? You know, in that case, it's like, all right, what would Optimus do, right? Did you guys have little bracelets like WWO do? That's crazy.
It was bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had multiple lands there too. So they had to have multiple, you know, what would Harry do? What would Mr. Potter do? You know, I don't know the rest of the characters. I've never seen Harry Potter either.
Oh my gosh.
I know my daughter's a huge fan though. So we don't, you know, we at least let them watch Harry Potter.
Yeah. Now you're going to have to take her to Universal.
Yeah. For sure. I'm thinking maybe grandkids once we have grandkids, you know, skip a generation.
There you go.
So, so when you were with, what was her name?
Ideation.
That
firm. Yeah.
What did you have like a specialty? Like what you know, what did you specialize in?
Yeah. So when I was at Ideation, I was brought on as basically a senior designer.
Okay.
So that was my role in the whole, Universal Studios project. And then after that, they actually I got promoted.
Okay.
So I became one of the co-interior design directors. So, which basically meant that I went from designing a lot to managing kind of the process.
Okay. Yeah.
I loved my team. Ideation is a phenomenal firm. Like Jennifer Reynolds, was my boss, and she is just the loveliest human ever. She big, massive heart. But I got promoted and I was like, oh, I miss design,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
or I actually kind of had a little existential crisis and I was like, I just don't know if this is what I want to be doing.
Sure.
So I ended up actually leaving them in 2018 and just kind of so I have 2 kids and at the time they were a little bit smaller and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to be a mom. Like obviously my career I had done so much, you know, like literally all over the valley, all over the country, all over the world.
Yeah.
And I was just like kind of a little burnt out. And I was just like, I don't know what I want to do next. So took a little bit of a sabbatical and then got bored real quickly.
As creatives do, right?
Yeah. I was like, okay, being a mom is so fun. And by the way, kudos to all stay-at-home moms because
right?
Like that's a legit job. Like that's like
You gotta be a special type of person. Yeah. I love my daughters. I love spending time with them. But like in the summer, when they're on break and stuff, I'm like, all right, like, and even for them, they're like, all right, we need to go to camp or something. Like, Dad, you're cool, but you're kind of lame too.
Yeah. You know? Anyways, we've all seen enough of one another.
But so you take this break, and now were you thinking that you wanted to stay in the industry?
You know, I wasn't.
Just weren't even sure.
I wasn't sure. I was just like, maybe design's no longer my thing. Like I felt like I had kind of done it all, like you know, and I was just like, I don't know. So my husband laughs at me because I probably tried everything else. I was like, maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll become a painter. Maybe I'll whatever. So I did all these silly, wacky things. We bought an Airbnb. We bought a property, turned it to an Airbnb. I was like, maybe I'll be an Airbnb host.
Yeah.
Hated that too, by the way.
Of dealing with the tenant or the renters.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
We have stories. Like it was
we
just
should
like
do a whole episode. We should do a whole show. Let's start our own show.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We can even do our voices like this so people don't know who we are. But I bet you have lots of stories.
Wacky.
Yeah.
Wacky things happened. And I was like, oh no, this isn't for me.
Not everybody is normal like us, right? Because I think of it that way. I'm like, if I rent it, I'd rent it to people like me. Well, if you could, if that was your choice.
We're respectful and, you know, whatever.
Hey, we cleaned up after here. We left, we had this, there's some chocolate. Like, dog shit in the bedroom. We didn't clean it up. Like, what?
What happened here? And then I'd be like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know what happened here. There's bad energy.
Yeah. So you realize quickly that.
Real quick. Yeah.
But it sounds like you try things out. Like, right. I mean, that's how we, for the longest time, I was always like, what was I meant to do? Like, what do I like to do? What do I want to do?
Yeah.
And for probably almost 10 years of my life when I still lived in Ohio before I moved out here, I did a lot of stuff that I didn't like to do, but it helped me realize like, oh, this is all right. Cool. Check this off. Don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. And it helped to kind of narrow like, well, this is what I like to do. And this is what I'm good at. So that's what you were doing.
That's what I was doing. I was
trying
just
things out.
I was like, okay. And then end of 2019, I'm like, I think I missed design.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So end of 2019, I'm like, all right, I'm going to you know what? I've never done the my own thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I've never had my own firm. Maybe that's for me. And I was like, I'll just start real small. And so started out on my kitchen table.
Yeah.
And I'm all about like, I'm going to go after like former clients. I wanted to truly create kind of my own clients, my own type of firm. And so, I thought back to like, what type of design have I always loved?
Yeah.
And it was really like the times when I was working directly with an owner, like early on when nobody knew who Sam was, like it was so amazing. He's such a passionate guy, right?
I would love to meet him. Like
he's so cool.
He's one of my like target.
Oh my
guests.
gosh.
Yeah.
He's just so cool. Like he is so incredibly passionate about every single detail. And like about creating an amazing concept. But then a lot of anytime like, have you met Mark Tarbell?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we worked, so Judy did the original Tarbells.
Okay.
And then we did a concept for him up in Colorado. And same thing, right? Like he's a chef owner.
Yeah.
So like very passionate about creating like this very specific thing. So I was like, maybe that's my jam is like working with smaller boutique brands or smaller like restaurant groups.
Sure.
So, so right before 2020.
Yeah. Good
great time to open a company. I launched, obviously COVID happened, which my husband and I say is a blessing in disguise because our kids were small. Mm-hmm. So I was growing a company from our kitchen table, but I was also home while they were doing, home from school, right? Like nutty.
Super easy, right?
Yeah, it was awesome.
That was
Oh my gosh. My son was in first grade.
Okay.
And I would go upstairs and he's like spinning in his chair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, buddy.
On a Zoom,
buddy.
Yeah.
And the teacher is like, like she's yelling at all the kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a trip.
A real quick reminder, head over to atasteofaz.com and subscribe to our email newsletter. Also, subscribe to A Taste of AZ magazine and get it shipped right to your door. Now let's get back into today's episode.
So teaching, but being a home, like I wanted to be a teacher at some point. That was one of my 17,000 career paths. So I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. And I think I wanted a year and a half of classes. And then I did my first like student teaching. I'm like, nah, I was in a class. I'm like, nope. Like I'm good with kids. I like kids, but like certain kids, right? Like ones I'm not very, I'm good at coaching and teaching kids and people who that are like, hey, I would love to learn more about that. I'm not good at getting the ones that are like troublesome.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm not good at getting them on track.
Oh yeah.
Like that's not my thing.
So my sister that I moved here for, she ended up going to ASU, becoming a teacher. She's been a teacher for almost 17 years.
Wow.
And in a Title I. So like rough kids.
Yeah.
I call her. Do you remember that Michelle Pfeiffer movie? Like this is like
yeah.
Like that's what I call her.
Dude, aging me too. I think that was my high school years. So
because she was in the military and then she gets them in check, but she cares so much about them.
That's that's great. Yeah. Like it takes a special type of person to do that, right? It sounds like you and I are not that special type of person.
Oh heck no. Yeah. I tell her I'm like, how do you? I don't even know how you do.
Yeah. I mean, we go to my daughter's school events, and I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, how do you what is all this noise around us? And so you're at home.
Yes, I'm at
home.
Kids
are doing their thing online.
Kids are doing their thing, and I'm just growing a business.
Yeah.
And it was so. I didn't realize honestly because it wasn't the design part, but like how much I would love that part of it. Yeah. Figuring out QuickBooks. Oh, this is how I invoice people. This is how I do whatever.
You would get excited about that stuff? Wow, that's impressive.
Because it was something new, right?
Sure.
Like it was a new skill. At that point, I had been designing, for 15 years. So I can design. Like I know I can design, and I'm not saying that for whatever, but like legit, that's what I've been doing my whole career.
Yeah.
And so like just learning like the accounting side and this side and that and all of the things.
And you're doing it for yourself too.
And I'm doing it for myself.
For your own business.
Yeah. And then learning how to get clients, right? And networking and meeting new people and
yeah. How did you get new? Like, how did you approach that?
So I networked a lot.
Okay.
I had no idea. I'm like, speaking of like doing all the things and like, oh, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't, I met
doing that again.
Yep. Never doing that again. So I just started meeting a ton of new people, and it was funny. I got my first 2 like restaurant clients right around the same time of each other. So I know you know one, which is Mike from Dynamite, Mike Chapman. Yeah. So his wife and I, Laura, who is such a lovely human.
I haven't met Laura yet.
Oh my gosh.
I've met Mike. Yeah.
She's amazing. She's incredible. We actually just had dinner with them
really?
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. If she's as awesome as Mike is, then it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's so lovely and sweet. And like, she's the backbone, right? Like of that whole.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So her and I were in this like female networking like group.
Yeah.
And we were just at coffee one day, and I was telling her my like whatever my background, and she's like, oh, well, my husband and I are opening a tap room.
Yeah.
She's like, I would love to talk to you about it. And I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, let me just tell you all the things that you should probably be like looking like. It was the first time they were building out a space.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that meant like helping first time owners or people who haven't done it very much, like that, I get so much joy out of that.
Okay,
right.
Yeah.
Like I've done it a million times. Like I've done very small, very large concepts. And so I just wanted to meet with them to be like, hey, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. I was not looking to like get a job out of it. I was just like, let me help you.
Yeah.
And at the end, Mike and I went to, so if you know, Dynamite was it was a coffee shop before.
Okay, yeah, that's right, yeah.
So we actually met at the coffee shop, and I was like, hey, this is all the things. And at the end of it, they're like, so you're going to help us, right? And I was like, oh, I legit was not even thinking like this was any sort of like, I was like, obviously. Like,
that's the best pitch you could do, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, I guess.
Yeah.
If, you know.
Yeah. So we immediately hit it off, and and I designed Dynamite for them, and
it's a beautiful space.
It is. They've created such a cool little local hotspot for that Cave Creek community.
Yeah, much needed.
You know, like they're doing game night and trivia night, and like they do live music.
The music stuff, yeah.
And they have some big things in the works. I don't think I'm allowed to say, but they're growing.
I don't know. Yeah, well, I saw Mike at the Craft Brewers Conference in Vegas. I just randomly ran into him. So he updated me on that. I don't know if we're allowed to say on the microphone, but follow Dynamite Beer Co. And I'm sure you'll be hearing some new stuff. Now I'm excited for them. And I think there was a big piece on the podcast that I did with him where we talked about the design. And did your name came up? Yes. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. He gave me a little shout out.
I know.
That's how I found you.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
But no, it's a beautiful space. Like you nailed it. Like you nailed it. And there was a few certain things. Was it a black wall or something? The black wall that was.
He was. I remember him saying, he's like, I didn't know about it. I don't think I trusted her, but I trusted her, and then he did it. And I'm like, here's a fun little fact on that space. The original bar top, I had proposed this like black concrete bar top, and they weren't sure about it, and so he ended up switching it to this like other tone. It got installed, like legit got installed, and he's like, I hate it so much.
So you had the idea, and then he's like, I would rather do this.
He switched it.
Mike, if you're listening to this.
But then they switched it to my original, to like what I originally had called out. And he was like, oh my gosh, I love it. Should have trusted me from the beginning. No, but they were great. They were great. Yeah. So
that's a great. So they were your first client.
They were them, and then I don't know if you know Westside Concepts.
Is that the Haymakers?
Yes.
And stuff? Yeah. I haven't met that. What's the guy's name?
So it's Joey Lucidi.
He used to have a distillery.
He did, right? Lucidi Distillery, and I don't. It's in Peoria.
Yeah, is it still open? I don't
know. No, they turned it into like a
venue.
A venue.
Yeah, because it was a fire station or something. Yeah.
It
was always on my list. I'm like, I got to check this place out.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, I'm like, it's not open. I'm like, dang it, I missed my window. But yeah, so they have multiple places,
yes,
right?
They have multiple concepts. So I, again, through networking, and I'm going to give a shout out to Katie Rowe with Upper West Side. So I met her, years ago, like right at the beginning of, I think when I was starting my company. And I reached out to her. Her whole thing, she lives in Peoria, and she was trying to, and still is, advocating for like better, bigger brands, concepts to come to the West Valley.
Is it Upper West Side? Like that's her social media?
That's her social media.
I've met her. Yeah, I have met her.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we did a giveaway for like a beer book or something like that.
Okay.
But Yeah, no, yeah, that's awesome.
She's the sweetest, and she knew Joey. And so she's like, you need to meet Joey because Joey needs you. And I was like, okay. So Joey and I think I met him at Haymaker, like his original concept. And he was like, yeah, Katie wants us to meet. He's like, I have nothing going on, but maybe. And so I was like, yeah, sure. And I always love, like, just like this, like, I love to talk about food and restaurants and design anytime.
We might have to recruit you as a co-host for sure. Yeah.
So Joey and I, we hit it off. We just we're literally just talking about food and restaurants and design. And he's like, yeah, I don't really have much going on now, but maybe sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Fast forward, it is now 2024 and we have 3 under construction with him.
Yeah.
So we just opened up Copper and Sage on Camelback at the end of last year.
I just saw that. That's where Sunup used to be, right?
So Sunup is still next to it.
Yeah.
But then they had that tasting room.
Well, they had the brewery, they had the tasting room, and then they had the restaurant at one point too.
At one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was a Mexican restaurant for a while.
Yep. It was Los Sombreros.
Yeah. Okay.
More recently.
Yeah.
And then now it's become Copper and Sage.
Okay.
Which is one of my favorite,
honestly,
little designs I've ever done.
Well, that seemed like a really, really cool space. Like,
I
remember, I love Uva and John from Sun Up, but when you would go into that place when it was Sun Up, I never went in there as Los Sombreros, but it was just kind of, it had that old kind of old bar kind of feel to it. But I remember just looking like, this is a cool place.
It is.
So now
cool.
with your touch on it,
wow,
I got to go. Is it open?
It is open.
Okay. Yeah.
So it opened in November. And what's really cool about it, so that main house, which I think used to be an actual house.
Okay.
So it's all brick.
Yeah.
And it's just got this great vibe and feel. And we did some the thing I like about Joey is he trusts me. He definitely he just kind of lets me, I mean, obviously within reason, there'll be things he'll be like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And I'm like, but I tried. All right, fine. I'll give you that one. And then there's things I will fight for. Some of the artwork, I was like, we have to do this.
Yeah.
So there's the main house and there's this amazing little patio that has just this most magical little vibe. And then next door, what was, I don't know, storage for Sunup?
Are you talking about the glass front building, or you're talking about the one in between the glass front building and the restaurant?
In between, so there's the restaurant, the patio, and then there was this, which is also brick.
That was the Sunup tasting room for a little bit, and we actually did a book event there. We did a book signing event. We did a beer with Sunup on March 11th of 2020.
Oh my
and
God.
We had a whole tour planned, and then a week later they're like, nah, no tour for promoting our beer book. Yeah. So I'm very interested to kind of see these spaces now with your touch on it.
Yeah. So that is it's actually a little bar lounge.
Okay.
So we turned that, and so it has this beautiful lit bar top. It's just and then inside of it is this really cool hidden private dining room.
Is that maybe where the brewery used to be? Because it used to be you would walk in the side door, the bar was kind of in front of you, and then there was seating and stuff.
Be.
And then there was a glass wall.
Yeah.
And then the brewing equipment was behind
I think
that.
It might be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it now.
Yeah.
Because I now I can truly see the before and after.
Yeah.
So what's their concept? What is
Copper and Sage is so their executive chef is Chef Evan Prophet. He came, I don't remember where he came from. Sorry, Evan. But he is so incredibly talented. So the food there is it's Southern comfort, but American.
Okay.
So they have this Nashville hot chicken oh my gosh, it's so
I like
amazing
hot chicken
with
sandwiches.
beignets. So they did hot chicken with beignets.
Oh,
it's a cool little take, and it's just everything is just really well done.
Yeah,
just an amazing steak. Their fried grain. See, once you get me talking about food, that's really why I do this. Honestly,
I'm good at design, just so that's my vehicle to get me to more food. Yeah.
Exactly. They have fried green tomatoes that are
nice.
legit, with a pimento dipping sauce. It's it's nice. Their cocktails are amazing. I know. Their cocktails are amazing. But yeah, so Joey and Mike were basically kind of my first 2 clients.
Yeah.
And now we did Copper and Sage Camelback. There's one currently under construction in Goodyear.
Okay.
And then we reconcepted Haymaker for him.
Okay.
So he's basically moving the original location across the street, and it's a little bit brighter, it's a little bit more modern.
Yeah.
But to his credit, he had, and again, this is why I love working with small owners is like, he designed that first location, right?
Yeah.
Like he did it himself and he made it work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then once he's ready to have it like rebranded and reconcept, like I was there.
Bringing the professionals for that one. Yeah.
But like the fact that like these owners put so much into it, you know, in the very beginning.
Well, that's why I've seen, I kind of like the restaurants and stuff fighting back against like Yelpers and stuff like that. These Yelp reviews. I've seen some like, oh, the decor was blah, blah, blah. And like, you see a comment they're like, we're the chefs, we're the owners, we're not designers. Like we did our best with it. Like, and you think of that. And it's like us with our magazine. Like before we brought on Luke's wife, Paige, who is a designer, it looked like a magazine created by two dudes, right? And it worked. But we just, we did what we had to do until we were able to do what we wanted to do.
Exactly. So usually people find, like Mike and Laura found me right at the beginning, which was awesome.
Sure.
But sometimes, owners can't afford a designer right at the beginning. Yeah. So, but I'm always there. Like when they're ready. It sounds like you're
maybe a mediator too because Laura has this idea, Mike has this idea, and you're like, we're going to do this.
What's funny is Mike actually is the creative.
I can see that. Yeah,
but absolutely. Laura is actually a graphic designer, so she did all their branding. Yeah. But like a lot of that vision of like what it looks like came from him.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Well, and with a graphic designer too, like I've met people who do what I consider to be creative jobs, and they don't consider themselves creative. Like Luke, my business partner, he's a photographer. Like this was actually, I don't know, I really pushed for this to be on our cover because I love these photos of Latha. Yeah. But this was Grace Stafowski, photographer that we work with. I don't know if you know Grace, but she's incredible. She just takes great photos. But this is the first cover without Luke's photos. But Luke's a photographer, and he's a great photographer, but he doesn't consider himself creative. He's like, I'm a very technical photographer. And you see his stuff, and it is, it doesn't have that dark kind of moody kind of, that's the kind of style that I like. And that's a little bit more Grace's style, but Luke's stuff is super clean. It's perfectly lit. But he doesn't consider himself a creative. I'm like, you are, right? but there are graphic designers that maybe aren't that creative. They can take somebody's creative idea and put it to, but yeah, I could see that with Mike. Mike's a creative dude for sure.
He is.
So
yeah.
So with Social Design Studios, is it all hospitality?
Primarily. So so I got those first couple clients, and then it was funny, like I did, it was just me in the beginning, especially like Dynamite. Like that was all me. I did the modeling, which is like 3D modeling. I did everything. And then very quickly I was like, oh, this is getting a little bit busier. I ended up moving into a small studio, just to be away from my house.
Yeah, for sure.
My son, so I had my design library, which is like all your finishes, right? And I would just have tiles and tiles. And my son's like, Mom, there's so many tiles. Stop with the tiles. And I'm like, all right, I need a space of my own. So I moved into a small studio, and it was incredible. It was just like, once you take a step, it's just like things just start happening. Yeah, right.
For sure.
And so I hired Liz, who she does currently now, she does all of our graphics and branding for our clients.
Okay.
So moved into the small studio, and then just kind of took on more and more clients. Primarily we do restaurants.
Okay.
I don't advertise that we do residential, but we've done a small bit of residential. Usually it's a commercial client. So like we did Bourbon and Bones in Peoria for Barrett. If you know Barrett Rinsler, he's cold beers and cheeseburgers.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he has some other concepts, but like he's
on Happy Valley. Is that where? Happy Valley, like
83rd and Happy Valley.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, yep.
Yes. So he was building a new home, actually it's an existing home and then completely renovating it. Yeah. So like I'm helping him a little bit.
Yeah.
Or like even, so the owners of Oliver's, Tom, they also own Fate Brewing.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, and then Eleanor next door. So his daughter was opening a salon. So we did her salon right next to it's actually right next to our studio.
Okay.
So we do some salons. We just recently did a med spa.
Okay.
I would love to do a boutique hotel. I'm putting that out in the universe.
You hear that, everybody?
Yes, yeah. That's my dream. So when I was with Testani, we actually worked on the sanctuary.
Okay. Yeah.
Like one of my most favorite projects of my life that I got to be a part of. So I would love to do a boutique hotel.
So like global ambassador kind of like
Sam.
Next one.
Well, I mean, Judy.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Judy, sorry.
And I mean, she just kills it. So she did the global ambassador.
Okay. Yeah. Beautiful
and,
place. That place is
stunning.
Unreal.
Every inch is like perfection.
For sure.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's you step into Hollywood. Like I've never been to Hollywood, but I have been now that I went to the Global Ambassador on a Friday night. Yeah. For sure. Like Bentley's pulling up and stuff.
Oh man, it's
like,
a scene.
Yeah.
It is such a scene.
Yeah. We have our Buick Enclave parked around the corner in the free parking, right?
Right.
But that so boutique hotel is something that's on the target list for you. Yeah. Nice. Maybe your own. Maybe one day your own.
I don't know. Is it going to be like owning an Airbnb?
Good point. You've been there, done that, right? Yeah.
I know. I tell my clients, I was like, because they'll ask me like, have you ever wanted to open a restaurant? And I'm like, oh, I've kicked that idea around. Like I would love to do a wine bar. That's, like maybe own a wine bar. And I was like, but I don't want to run it. Like,
my wife won't let me. Like I have the desire because I just want to have, like, there's so much I love about food and beverage, but I'm realizing more and more that ownership is not one of those things that I'll probably love, having to deal with all that. I mean,
the day to day. Like I love the whole design, construction part. This is so exciting. But then it's funny, like after this, we turn it over to the owners and then they do the hard part.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they have to think about the consistency of the menu day in and day out. Yeah. They have to think about all the things and then upkeeping the design and making sure that, everything's kept up well. And
and updated. I'm sure updates come too, like where they got updated. And do you have like some sort of recurring subscription that they can, once a month I come in and evaluate this? But no, that's really cool. I mean, I love your work. I love what you've done.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that we got you on the podcast.
Yeah,
for sure. So Oliver's is the newest project. Mm-hmm. We got to talk about Matt's place over in Peoria.
Oh my gosh. I was just there yesterday too.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah. So we were doing final Christina. So Christina's his wife, if you've met her.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So we were doing final detail shots, the photo shoot. And so it's this incredible little hidden gem. So it's the owners of Peoria Artisan Brewing, Matt and Christina Frosch. And then they developed it in conjunction with the chef, Michael, and I'm going to butcher his name, Malik.
He was the chef of Peoria
Yes,
Artisan. Yeah.
He
Okay.
is. Yes,
incredible
he was.
Food, like probably some of the best brewery food in the state for sure.
Yes. Well, the thing is, he's such a talented chef, and so they basically were like, we want to bring a different type of dining experience to the West Valley, and then B, he is so talented. Like, let's give him the opportunity to showcase what he can really do, right?
For sure.
And so this space opened up next door to them. It was like a dentist. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so they're like, originally they were like, well, maybe we'll expand the dining room of Pab. And then they're like, no, what if we like just created this whole different experience?
Yeah.
So the best way to describe it, it's a chef's kitchen speakeasy.
Okay.
So you go in and like the whole thing is centered around the kitchen and all the seating basically like faces into the kitchen. And it's like very moody. You have no idea, like it's in the strip. You have no idea it's in a strip mall. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
It turned out really like
I think it was it last year, maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, whatever. I think it was a 2023 Strong Beer Festival. So early 2023, we ran into Matt, and just, we were just chatting. He's like, I'm working on something really cool. And he kind of gave us, a speakeasy type, focusing on some good cocktails. And it was just the way things just kind of is serendipity. Is that the right word? Like where things just kind of flow together. And so to meet you and then to know that you were the one that working on that. And I'm like, oh yeah, shit, Matt is opening up the speakeasy, So Barley and Smoke.
And Smoke.
I got to go check it out. And it's like, what is it? Lake Pleasant Parkway and something like that. Just Google it. You'll be able to find it if you're listening to this.
It's next to Peoria Artisan Brewing, if you know that. And what's cool is like you make a reservation and then you go into Pab and you ask the hostess, you're like, I'm here for a reservation at Barley and Smoke. Oh. So it's like a whole speakeasy entrance.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you pull up, because I dropped some magazines off to them a few weeks ago, and I pulled up and I was like, I mean, I knew it wasn't open because it was like 1 o'clock or something. I'm like, I don't think they open till 4, but I'm looking, I'm like, I think it's here because it's just the glass. Like it just looks like the, glass wall, but there's black on it, so you can't really see in it.
Yep.
So that's cool. Like, so the process is even speakeasy style.
So you like go in, they walk you through the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like in this like beautiful little space.
Nice. I gotta get over.
And the food is incredible. The drinks are phenomenal. Like they're so pretty. They're so pretty. You don't want to drink them.
I know.
There.
And then you just like, then you drink and you're like, oh, it tastes even better than it looks.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, so before we wrap this up, what's the future look like for you? Like what is the vision for Social Design Studios?
So it's crazy. Like so I've been doing this now for 5 years and I feel like I'm just getting started. Like, yeah,
that's great.
So, there's some things in the works, growing the brand in a different way. But yeah, I think just continuing to serve kind of like local concepts, really is big. Maybe doing a little national work. I might be ready to do that again.
Yeah.
Nice. Travel a bit. I used to travel all the time, like in my previous firms, and it gets old real quick, but it's also kind of fun to see different parts of and so just keep doing what I'm doing, and then
growing the team. How many people do you have on your team right now?
So there's myself. We have 2 designers under me, Callie and Sophia, who they are the most incredible. Like I have such an amazing team.
That's
like
awesome.
They really, we do the volume we do because of them. Like they're such incredibly hardworking people. And then Liz does all the graphics and brandings. And then we have Haley. So we do all like procurement, which is basically like purchasing all the furniture. Okay. So when you're like all of this, we make sure it's here on time, and we work with our vendors. Okay. So that we have Haley, and then we have Shay, who does our marketing, who is incredible.
She is. She's on top of stuff.
Isn't she amazing?
She
it's
is.
Just like shout out to Shay. She got me here.
Yeah, for sure. She is responsible for all of this. So Shay, thank you. Thank you. So that's the team.
That's the team.
Yeah.
Small but mighty.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We enjoy working with you. This was a great podcast. I was very excited for this. Like I said, we had a competition to see. We haven't decided who the winner was, of who was more excited between you or I. But
it was everything I could have dreamed of. I knew good. Like, thank you so much for what you do. Like, I think you tell people's stories so well, and you like get it out of them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How'd I do with you?
Like,
being on the end of usually you're listening.
No, I thought it was great because it's just so comfortable. It's like chatting with an old friend.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. I worked at University of Phoenix for 9 years. I was an academic advisor, and they put us through and it was all on the phone. Like I didn't have any local students. So they took us through the whole process of conversations, guiding conversations. My goal was to get people who had dropped out to finish. Like it was like our role was like 3 classes or less. If you're within 9 credits of graduating, my job was to get you back in and say, just get this finished, right?
Yeah.
But I was also like the 30th person to call them, and they're like, what are you calling me? I don't want to go back to school. So I had to break down those barriers, and through this training, it really helped me to develop my interviewing skills.
Yeah.
So when I started doing podcasts and started to interview, and then I realized the interview was what I really enjoyed. I realized that set me apart, and I was really good at it. And like sometimes people, when we're done with an episode, people are like, they take the headset off, they're like, whoa, that was incredible. It's like it was like a therapy session for them almost. Like, I haven't thought about that for years. So so it means a lot to me to hear somebody who listens to the podcast and gets that piece of it. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, now you can listen to your episode, and you can grade how I did on that one. But no, thank you. And where can people find your stuff?
Sure. So on Instagram, we're at socialdesignstudio.co.
Okay.
Our website, www.socialdesignstudio.co.
Okay.
And we're here.
So at socialdesignstudio.co on Instagram.
On Instagram, because the handle without the .co was not available.
Which is cool, right?
Isn't that wacky?
Yeah. Tap that AZ, like my beer podcast, like someone already has them. Like,
I know.
What? Like how? And it's not even 2 Z's, it's just 1 Z.
And then you reach out and they're like, I'll sell it to you for $5,000.
No, you're not even posted anything. I'll just go with .co then.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, cool. Well, Nicole, thank you again.
Thank you,
You're awesome. You're doing a great job, and I was glad that we got you on the podcast.
You're doing a great job too.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Hell yes. Nice work. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.